So, as we've been talking about threats to schools here, what have we got? Over a dozen people have been charged with threatening schools so far. We had a caller who just told us that 6,000 people, 6,000 kids were evacuated at one point from one of the schools. We know Chaparral got evacuated earlier this week. Pablo was talking about his school that got evacuated. What a mess. What an absolute mess. What a disaster for families across the valley. If you have 6,000 kids that have to be evacuated from a school campus, maybe you've got a middle school and high school complex or something of that sort, you've got thousands of families that are being thrown into absolute chaos, at the very least for that day. But not only are those families thrown into chaos, but also the employers of their parents are being thrown into chaos because suddenly they don't have their employee that they need to have there that day. And I don't know about you, but if I have something going on at work, we got a busy day, right? Something is essential. Something is happening. I'll give you an example. Next Tuesday, we're going to have the vice presidential debate. After that debate airs on KTAR, there's going to be kind of a roundtable conversation. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be one of the panelists on that roundtable.
Wonderful.
Okay, great. Mm-hmm. So does that mean that my wife's day suddenly isn't important?
No.
Now, that's a day. Some days I can just say, Joe, I've got something important, and you go, I got it. But that's a day where there's something specifically planned. I'm in here. It's a big deal. Uh-huh. That doesn't mean my wife's day isn't a big deal. So one of us has to decide, who are we going to let down? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Let's say she's got a major presentation scheduled for Tuesday, and I've got this commitment on Tuesday. Well, one of us is going to have to bail because now all of a sudden school's been called off.
If you got to go pick up your kid, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it throws everybody off. I think the key to this is to identify kids who may be struggling. Well, early on.
You mentioned, too, 6,000 kids evacuated out of school. You think any of those 6,000 kids might have a need for some mental health services on a day like that? Well, maybe they feel a little threatened?
That's what I keep coming back to. Those kids need help. Mm-hmm. Obviously, whoever's calling this in, if it is a student. Now, if this is somebody doing nefarious things from elsewhere, that's another story. But if you've got students from the school who are calling in these threats, what can we do better? As adults, we're the grown-ups who are like, oh, the kids these days.
Counselors.
Social workers.
Mental health services provided in the school.
Which is why it's so frustrating that I was listening to Outspoken with Bruce and Gatos, and it was on Tuesday. Tuesday, right, Pablo, that Beth Lewis was on?
I think Joe Dana was on earlier in the week, too, from 12, talking about this.
Yeah. So Beth Lewis.
Heidi, there? I'm thinking of that
interview. She was with Save Our Schools Arizona. And was talking about how frustrating this is.
I got it up, and as soon as she connects, I'll get her.
Peoria Unified, they have a grant that's been given to them from the feds that was worth, what, $275,000 is still left in this grant? Mm-hmm. And they can use that grant for mental health services for Peoria students.
Right.
The governing board in Peoria Unified just decided, nah, we don't want to use that money.
They voted 2-2, and because they couldn't agree that it should go to this, essentially that money is going to go back to the government.
I can hear you barely trying to connect on here.
Toward their school.
Not going to go towards Peoria.
What is Peoria thinking? You've got grant money. This isn't a loan. This is grant money. The money's already been collected from the people, right? So what is the thought process here that, no, we don't want that. We don't want to use money that could help out our students and our staff and faculty and everything else.
Well, the governing board president, her argument was that this is just a Band-Aid, and she wanted to see a more comprehensive plan. Her name is Becky Proudfit.
So, pause. Where's the more comprehensive plan?
Got me.
Let's use her metaphor. She says this is a Band-Aid, and she wants what?
Comprehensive plan.
Let's call that a roll of gauze. Oh, my goodness, I'm bleeding. Oh, you are? Yeah, I am. Do you have any gauze? You know what? I don't know where the gauze is, but I have this Band-Aid right now. You know what? Give me the Band-Aid while we go find the gauze. Put the Band-Aid on the wound until we can find better wrappings.
The other board member who voted against it, Heather Rooks, apparently pushes culture wars and intends to remove social workers from school campuses, according to Beth Lewis. That's even more troubling than the Band-Aid.
We'll get the social workers off the campus altogether.
Yeah, just get rid of them. We don't need them.
I see.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.